The changing room smelled of concrete and testosterone. Major Knox Brennan's hands closed around Reese Dalton's throat. 40 pounds of pressure, thumbs on her trachea, the grip of a man who had done this before. Her heart rate didn't change. 58 beats per minute, the same rhythm it had maintained through 20 years of combat operations, through firefights in Fallujah, through ambushes in the Hindu Kush. Through the night, her husband's casket came home draped in a flag she had spent 2 decades defending. She looked at the security camera, red light blinking in the corner, recording everything. "Major," she said. Her voice was calm, level, the voice of someone who had been choked before and survived. "Cameras recording, Article 128, aggravated assault. You sure about this?" Knox Brennan had no idea who he was choking, but he was about to find out. His face was red, veins standing out on his forehead. Rage and grief and 20 years of misdirected anger pouring into those 40 pounds of pressure. "You think I care about a camera? You're useless. A relic, taking up space real operators could use." Behind him, Captain Garrett Finch's eyes went wide. Staff Sergeant Declan Hayes looked at the floor. Neither man moved. Neither man spoke. Reese Dalton's mind was already working, already calculating. Thumbs on trachea, carotid arteries compressed. 8 to 10 seconds to unconsciousness if she allowed it. She wouldn't allow it. Left hand cup his right elbow. Control point established. Right hand radial nerve 3 centimeters below the lateral epicondyle. 40 pounds return force. Hip pivot 17 degrees. Physics does the work. His momentum becomes his enemy. Total time required 2.3 seconds. She moved. Her left hand cupped Knox's right elbow. Found the control point. Her right hand found the radial nerve. Pressed. 40 pounds of pressure returned to sender. Exquisite pain if you knew where to apply it. She knew. 20 years of knowing exactly where to hurt people when hurting them was necessary. Her hips pivoted. 17 degrees. Just enough. Knox's forward momentum did the rest. His grip loosened. His own body weight betrayed him. She redirected, guided, let physics be the weapon. Knox Brennan hit locker 7 with a sound like a hammer striking a bell. Metallic, sharp, final, 2.3 seconds, total. Reese adjusted her collar, picked up her duffel bag, 42 pounds. She knew because she had weighed it that morning. She weighed everything, measured everything, calculated everything. It was the only way to stay alive in a profession where carelessness was measured in body bags. She walked to the door. Didn't say a word, not one. Words weren't necessary. He knew now, they all knew. Behind her, 3 men stood in stunned silence. Knox on his knees, gasping. Confusion and rage and the first cold finger of fear touching the base of his spine. Finch staring at her retreating form with something like horror in his eyes. Hayes frozen, processing what he had just witnessed. The door closed behind her. The red light kept blinking. Recording, always recording. This woman had just neutralized an Army Ranger major in 2.3 seconds. He had no idea who he was choking. But 72 hours earlier, when she first arrived at Fort Sentinel, the signs had been there. All of them, if anyone had been paying attention. 72 hours earlier, the Humvee that brought Master Chief Reese Dalton to Forward Operating Base Sentinel was coated in Arizona dust. Tan paint faded to the color of old bone. The driver was a specialist who looked about 19 and knew better than to ask questions. Smart kid. Reese sat in the back with her duffel bag and watched the desert roll past. Scrub brush. Occasional cacti standing sentinel against a sky so blue it hurt to look at. She had seen worse deployments. Fallujah in summer, 130 degrees in full kit. Kandahar in winter, -20 with wind chill. Syria when the mortars came in every night at 0300 and you learned to sleep through the screaming. This was vacation by comparison. The temperature gauge on the Humvee's dashboard read 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Dry heat, her favorite kind. The kind that didn't rot your gear or breed infection in every scratch and scrape. Just heat and dust in the endless blue sky of the American Southwest. The gate guard checked her ID 3 times, scanned it twice, made a phone call that lasted 4 minutes. Finally waved them through with the expression of a man who had just been told his job was above his pay grade. Also smart. Reese appreciated smart. Smart people lived longer. The Humvee dropped her at the admin building. She stepped out into the heat and shouldered her duffel. 42 pounds. The weight was familiar, comforting even. 2 decades of carrying exactly this much weight from one duty station to another, from one war to the next, from one life to whatever came after. Inside the admin building, the duty sergeant looked up from his computer. "Master Chief Dalton?" "That's right." General Price is expecting you. Second floor, last door on the right. Thank you, Sergeant. She took the stairs. Habit. Always take the stairs. Know your exits. Know your escape routes. Never trap yourself in an elevator if you can help it. Lessons learned in places where the wrong door could get you killed. Lessons that didn't stop applying just because you were stateside. Brigadier General Catherine Price was 56 years old and had earned her star the hard way. First female commander of a joint special operations training facility. A face that had weathered 33 years of service. Eyes that had seen too much. Those eyes were studying Reese now. Master Chief Dalton, close the door. Reese did, stood at attention. At ease, sit. She sat, spine straight, hands folded in her lap. The posture of someone who had spent 20 years being evaluated by superior officers and knew exactly how to present herself. Price leaned back in her chair, studied the file in front of her. The file that told part of the story and hid the rest behind blocks of black redaction. Your file is the most redacted piece of paper I've seen in my entire career. Yes, ma'am. Technical advisor. Communication systems integration. Price snorted. That's the cover story they gave you. That's my assignment, ma'am. Horse shit. Price's eyes narrowed. I know Dev grew when I see it, Master Chief. I worked with your people in Iraq. Best damn operators I ever saw. Reese said nothing. 20 years of saying nothing when nothing was the correct answer. What's the real mission? Reese met her eyes, made a decision. This woman had earned the truth, or at least part of it. Penetration testing, ma'am. Base security. I find the holes. I report them. 18 months. Then I'm done. For good this time. For good. Your choice to come back. No, ma'am. Title 10 Special Directive. Joint Command requested. I accepted. Price leaned forward. Why you'd earned your retirement? Clean separation? Why come back? Reese's jaw tightened, almost imperceptible, but Price saw it. My daughter, ma'am, Harper, she's a senior at a Phoenix high school, applying to the Naval Academy. She paused. I took this assignment because it's stateside. No deployments, no combat. I can be a phone call away if she needs me. And after 18 months, I'm going to teach civilians how to scuba dive somewhere quiet and never wear a uniform again. Price's expression softened. Just a fraction. Your husband, Commander James Dalton, Syria 2019. Classified operation. I'm sorry. Thank you, ma'am. He was a good officer. He was the best. I knew him. Served together in Afghanistan, 2008. The silence that followed held weight. The kind of weight that comes from understanding. From shared loss. From the knowledge that some conversations don't need more words. Finally, Price pulled out a folder, slid it across the desk. Your quarters, your credentials, your cover stays intact. As far as anyone here knows, you're exactly what your file says. A Master Chief doing technical work. Nobody needs to know different. Understood, ma'am. One more thing, Dalton. Price looked up. This is an Army base, Rangers mostly, good soldiers, young, peacetime arrogant. Some of them might not take kindly to a Navy advisor, especially one who outranks them and won't tell them why. Reese almost smiled. Almost. I can handle Army Rangers, ma'am. I've worked with worse. I bet you have. Price stood, extended her hand. Welcome to Sentinel, Master Chief. Try not to break anyone. No promises, ma'am. Reese's quarters were standard. 8 by 10 feet. Metal bunk, metal desk, metal locker. A window that looked out over the training grounds. Spartan. Functional. Exactly what she had expected after 20 years of military life. She dropped her duffel on the bunk and began to unpack. Everything in its place. Everything accounted for. Order was survival. Chaos was the enemy. 2 decades of living by that principle, and she wasn't about to stop now. First the uniforms, folded with creases sharp enough to cut, stacked in the locker with mathematical precision. Then the personal items. These she handled more carefully. The photograph came out first. James Dalton smiled at her from behind the glass. 34 years old in the picture. Dress whites, that crooked grin that had made her fall in love with him during advanced dive training when they were both too exhausted to remember their own names. She placed the frame on the desk, centered it exactly. Hey, baby, she whispered. Made it. 18 months, then I'm with Harper full-time. I promise. The dog tags came next. His name, his service number, his blood type. The metal cool and smooth under her fingers. She hung them from the bedpost where she could see them, where they could watch over her. The last item was the challenge coin. Dev Grew Trident, Red Squadron, 2004 to 2024. The years of her life that had mattered most and cost the most. She set it next to James's photo. Then she opened her notebook. Leather, worn, the cover soft from being carried in cargo pockets through 47 countries. She opened it to the inside cover. 203 small notches cut into the leather with a kabar knife, one for each confirmed kill. 203 human beings who had woken up on their last morning, not knowing that today was the day Reese Dalton would put a bullet through their center mass from 800 meters away. She didn't feel guilt about the notches. She felt responsibility. Each one had been necessary. Each one had saved American lives. Each one had been documented, verified, approved through the chain of command. But she remembered them, every single one. The notebook stayed open on the desk, a reminder, a record, a warning to herself that violence was easy and forgetting was dangerous. She checked her watch. 08:20 hours. Time to start work. Time to become the person the file claimed she was. Technical advisor. Nobody special. Just another sailor punching a clock. Her eyes fell on the calendar she had tacked to the wall. March 15th was circled in red. 3 days from now, 20 years since Operation Red Wings. 20 years since she had tried to save a man named Robert Brennan and failed. 20 years since she had made a promise to a dying lieutenant colonel that she still hadn't kept. She closed her eyes, took a breath. 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. The breathing pattern that had kept her calm through 1,000 firefights, through IED strikes and ambushes, and the kind of close-quarters combat that left you deaf and shaking and covered in someone else's blood. When she opened her eyes again, her heart rate was 57 beats per minute, calm, controlled, ready. The rifle range on day 2 was hot, 108 degrees, the kind of heat that made the air shimmer and turned rifles into branding irons if you touched the wrong part. Reese stood behind the firing line observing. Part of her job, security assessment, included training protocols, understanding how the base ran its qualification courses. 50 meters downrange, Major Knox Brennan was running his squad through close-quarters marksmanship. M4 carbines, multiple targets, stress fire. He was good, very good. Smooth transitions, excellent muzzle discipline. The fluid confidence of someone who had done this 10,000 times in conditions where mistakes meant body bags. His squad was less impressive. Young, enthusiastic, but sloppy. Finger discipline was garbage. Spacing was wrong. They were getting by on youth and aggression instead of skill. Knox saw it too. Cease fire, unload and show clear. The soldiers complied. Magazines out, bolts back, chamber checks. Finch, what did you do wrong? Captain Garrett Finch looked confused. Sir, I got all my targets. You crossed Hayes's line of fire twice. Do that in a real firefight and someone's going home in a box. Knox's voice was sharp, unforgiving. Hayes, yes, sir. Your magazine changes took 4 seconds, should take 2. Practice until it's muscle memory. Yes, sir. Knox spotted Reese. His eyes narrowed. He walked over, stopped 3 feet away. Close enough to be aggressive without being overtly hostile. Help you with something, Master Chief? Reese met his gaze. Level, professional. Just observing, sir. Part of my duties. Your duties? He looked her up and down, taking measure, making judgments. Right, you shoot. When required, sir? That's not an answer. Yes, sir, I shoot. What's your qualification? Expert, sir. Something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, skepticism. The look of a man who had just been told something he didn't quite believe. Expert, he repeated. Navy expert or real expert? Reese kept her voice neutral. The qualification standards are the same across services, sir. Standards, he snorted. Sure they are. He stepped closer. Tell you what, Master Chief, why don't you show us this expertise right now? It wasn't a request. Reese considered. She could refuse, walk away, keep her head down, do her job, stay invisible. But something in Knox's tone made her pause. That condescension, that certainty that she was less than, that she didn't belong. She had heard that tone before. In buds, in selection, in 100 different situations where men had looked at her and seen weakness instead of strength. She had proven them wrong every single time. Yes, sir, she said. I'd be happy to demonstrate. Knox smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Outstanding. Finch, give the Master Chief your weapon. Finch handed over his M4. Reese checked it with the unconscious efficiency of someone who had handled rifles since before most of these soldiers were born. Magazine, chamber, safety, sights, good enough. What's the evolution, sir? 50-meter line, 5 targets, Mozambique drill, 10 seconds. Mozambique drill, 2-shot center mass, 1-shot head, 5 targets meant 15 rounds total in 10 seconds. It was designed to test speed accuracy and the ability to transition between multiple threats under time pressure. Think you can handle that? Knox crossed his arms. Yes, sir. She stepped to the line. Magazine seated, chamber around, safety off. Her body settled into the modified Weaver stance she had learned 20 years ago. Weight distribution, 60-40. Knees soft, elbows slightly bent, the position that allowed maximum recoil control with minimum effort. Her breathing slowed. 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out, heart rate dropping, 58, 56, 54. Behind her, Knox voice. On my mark, 3, 2, 1, go. Reese moved. The rifle came up. Sight picture acquired in .08 seconds. Front sight post settling on the first target's thoracic cavity. 2 inches left of sternum. Trigger press. 4.5 pounds. Clean break. The rifle barked. Recoil managed through her shoulders and core. Reset in .2 seconds. Second shot, 2 inches right of sternum, heart box, then the transition, headshot, ocular cavity, medulla oblongata, instant incapacitation, target 1 neutralized. Time elapsed 1.1 seconds. Her body knew what to do. 20 years of muscle memory, 50,000 rounds downrange, hundreds of live targets in places where hesitation meant death. The rifle was an extension of her will. The targets were problems to be solved, physics and biology and the cold mathematics of violence. Target 2, 2 center mass, 1 head, transition, .3 seconds between targets, no wasted movement, hips drive, arms follow, eyes lead, the rhythm of it, the mechanical precision. Targets 3, 4, 5, the same pattern. Exhale, press, press, transition. Exhale, press, press, transition. Her breathing controlled, her heart rate steady, 64 beats per minute, calm as a summer morning. The rifle went empty. She dropped the magazine. Reached for the spare on Finch's kit. Tactical reload. Smooth, fast. Seated the magazine. Racked the bolt. Ready. Total time 8.1 seconds. She safed the weapon. Turned to Knox. Handed the rifle back to Finch. Satisfied, sir. Knox was staring downrange. Every target had 2 holes in the chest. 1 in the head. Perfect groupings. No misses. The kind of shooting that came from doing it so many times it wasn't even conscious thought anymore. Lucky, he said finally. Yes, sir. Very lucky. She walked away. Behind her, Finch was whispering to Hayes. Did you see that 8 seconds? I've never seen anyone that fast. Tank said it was luck. That wasn't luck, Deck. That was something else. Reese didn't hear the rest. She was already gone. Back to her work. Back to being invisible. But the seed had been planted. Knox had seen her now, and he didn't like what he saw. Day 7 was March 15th, the anniversary. 20 years since Operation Red Wings. 20 years since Lieutenant Colonel Robert Brennan had died in her arms. 20 years since she had made a promise to a dying man. She marked the day in her quarters, alone, with James's photo and her notebook and the weight of memory that never got lighter. The memory came without warning. It always did. March 15th, 2004. Afghanistan. She was 23 years old, barely 2 years in the Navy, fresh out of training. The ink on her orders still wet enough to smudge. She was in a helicopter that was on fire. The RPG had hit them at 8,000 feet. Port side, the explosion killed the crew chief instantly and sent the Black Hawk spinning toward a mountain that didn't care about American soldiers or their missions or their families waiting at home. She remembered the pilot screaming. She remembered the co-pilot praying. She remembered thinking, this is it. This is how it ends. 23 years old and burning on a mountain in a country most Americans couldn't find on a map. But the helicopter didn't crash. Not completely. The pilot was good. Damn good. He got them down on a ridge that was too small and too steep and too exposed, but he got them down. 7 survivors out of 12. And somewhere on that mountain pinned down by enemy fire was the quick reaction force they had been sent to rescue. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Brennan and what was left of his team. Reese had never met Brennan, never heard his name before that morning. But she would remember him for the rest of her life, because she was the one who carried his body off that mountain. And she was the one who heard his last words. She found him with 4 rounds in him, arterial bleeding, shrapnel to the abdomen, still calling out enemy positions, still directing fire, still protecting his team even though he was dying. He looked at her, this scared 23-year-old kid who had no business being on that mountain, and he said, "Get my boys home. Promise me." "I promise, sir." She applied the tourniquet, applied pressure to the wound, then she picked him up. Fireman's carry, 210 pounds plus gear. Started down the mountain, 400 meters through enemy fire. AK rounds snapping past. RPGs exploding close enough to feel the concussion in her chest. Every step she thought, don't drop him. Don't you dare drop him. They made it to the medevac helicopter. Brennan died 12 minutes into the flight. Blood loss, too much damage, too far from help. His last words were, "Tell my son Kyle I loved him. Tell him I'm proud of him. Tell him to be better than me." Reese held his hand. "I will, sir. I promise." But she never delivered that message. The standard KIA letter didn't include those details, just the basics. Died in service to his country. Honorable death. Be proud. They never mentioned the 23-year-old sailor who had held his hand, who had promised to deliver his last words, who had failed. For 20 years she had carried those words. Waiting. That afternoon, someone destroyed her laptop. 3 days of security reports, vulnerability assessments, detailed recommendations for improving base defense protocols. All of it gone. Brown liquid pooling on the desk, the screen flickering, dying. The specialist at the next desk looked over. "Oh man, that sucks. What happened?" "Someone knocked over a coffee." "You see who?" "No." That's really bad timing." Reese looked at him, read the expression, the careful neutrality, the decision not to get involved. He knew something, but he wasn't going to say. "Yeah," Reese said. "Bad timing." She spent that night rewriting 3 days of reports from memory. Every detail, every finding, every recommendation. 300 hours and she was still typing. There was a knock. She opened the door. Command Sergeant Major Dutch Holland stood in the hallway. 62 years old, a prosthetic left leg hidden under his BDUs. The man who had helped train her 20 years ago. "Dutch," Reese said, surprised. "It's 0300. Saw your light on. Figured you were pulling an all-nighter." He held up 2 cups of coffee. "Brought reinforcements." She let him in. They sat at her desk, drank in companionable silence. Finally, Dutch spoke. "Someone's giving you grief. It's nothing I can't handle." "Reese," his voice was gentle but firm, "I've known you for 20 years. I know when you're handling something and when something's handling you." "Which is it?" She sipped her coffee, considered how much to say. "Laptop got destroyed today. 3 days of work. I'm rebuilding it. Accident. No. You know who? Suspicions. No proof." Dutch nodded slowly. "The Ranger Major. Brennan. Knox Brennan." His jaw tightened. "He's got it in for you. Don't know why, but I know the type. Needs someone to blame. Someone to punch down on. Makes him feel bigger. I can handle it, Dutch. I know you can. You're the finest warrior I ever trained." He leaned forward. "But you don't have to handle it alone. That's what the old guys like me are for." Reese looked at him, this man who had taught her how to swim with 80 pounds of gear, how to shoot in winds that would make a normal person miss by feet, how to survive when surviving seemed impossible. "Thank you, Dutch." "Don't thank me." He stood, walked to the door, stopped, turned back. "You know what I see when I look at you?" "What?" "I see that 23-year-old kid who showed up to training, scared out of her mind but too stubborn to quit. I see the operator who saved my ass in Kandahar when things went sideways. I see the woman who's lost more than most people will ever have and keeps getting up anyway." He paused. "I see someone who's earned the right to peace. Don't let these punks take that from you." "I won't." After he left, Reese went back to her reports, but his words stayed with her. "You've earned the right to peace." Had she? Or was this just what the end looked like for warriors who stayed too long? Outlived their usefulness? Became relics that younger men needed to tear down to prove their own worth? She didn't know. She just kept typing. The changing room was empty when Reese arrived at 16:45 hours. 20 feet by 15. Concrete block walls painted institutional green. 4 shower stalls, a row of lockers. 1 security camera mounted in the corner. Red light blinking. Recording. Always recording. She checked her watch. Late afternoon. Most people were at evening chow. Perfect. She needed to clean up after a 12-mile ruck, change from PT gear to duty uniform, get back to work. Simple routine. Nothing special. She opened her locker, started the ritual. Boots off, socks, PT shirt. Each item folded with mechanical precision. Creases sharp, corners square. The meditation of order. The door opened. Major Knox Brennan walked in. Behind him, Captain Finch and Sergeant Hayes. None of them were supposed to be here. Reese felt it immediately, the way you feel a storm coming before the first drop of rain. She kept folding, didn't look up. Maybe they would just grab their gear and leave. They didn't leave. Knox walked closer, stopped 6 feet away, arms crossed, the body language of someone looking for a fight. Look what we got, boys. The Navy's advisor. Reese didn't respond, just kept folding. PT pants now, precise creases. I'm talking to you, Master Chief. She stopped, looked up, met his eyes. I hear you, Major. Do you? He stepped closer. Because I've been asking around. Nobody knows what you do here. You're not training anyone, not running missions, just taking up space. I do my job, Major. Your job, he laughed, cold, bitter. What is your job besides being the Navy's diversity checkbox? Behind him, Finch shifted uncomfortably. Hayes was watching, silent. Reese's heart rate stayed steady. 58 beats per minute. Major, you're out of line. Out of line, Knox's voice rose. You want to talk about lines? My father died in Afghanistan, March 15th, 2004. Real warriors, not whatever you are, not some diversity hire taking up a slot real operators could use. The date hit Reese like a bullet. March 15th, 2004. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Brennan, this was his son. The 14-year-old boy had grown into this angry man, and he had no idea who she was. Major, her voice stayed calm, level. There's a camera, red light, corner. It's recording what you're doing right now. You think I care about a camera? His voice was rising. 20 years of grief and rage pouring out. You think I care about your feelings? You're useless. You're a relic, taking space from people who matter. He shoved her shoulder. Hard, deliberate. Reese absorbed it. Didn't stumble, didn't brace, just took the hit. The calm acceptance seemed to enrage him more. Nothing, he snarled. You've got nothing. His hands shot forward, closed around her throat, thumbs on the trachea, fingers on the carotids, 40 pounds of pressure. Textbook. Reese's heart rate didn't change. 58 beats per minute. Behind Knox, Finch's eyes went wide. Tank, maybe we should. But Reese was already moving. Her left hand cupped Knox's right elbow. Control point. Her right hand found the pressure point on his left wrist. Radial nerve. Exquisite pain if you knew where to press. She pressed. Her hips pivoted. 17 degrees. Just enough. His forward momentum became his enemy. She redirected, guided. Let physics do the work. Knox stumbled. His grip loosened. His own body betrayed him. He hit locker 7 with a metallic clang that echoed off concrete walls. Total time 2.3 seconds. Reese adjusted her collar, picked up her duffel bag, walked to the door. She didn't say a word, not one. The door closed behind her. In the changing room, 3 men stood in stunned silence. Knox on his knees, gasping, confusion and rage and the first cold finger of fear touching the base of his spine. Finch staring at the door with something like horror in his eyes, Hayes frozen, processing what he had just witnessed. Finally, Knox spoke. His voice was raw. What the hell was that? Finch swallowed hard. Tank, that wasn't normal. That was... She attacked me. Knox stood, unsteady. You both saw it. She attacked me. We're filing a report right now. Hayes found his voice. What about the camera? I don't care about the camera. It's 3 of us against 1. They'll believe us. But Finch was still staring at the door, because he had seen Reese's eyes during those 2.3 seconds. No fear, no anger, no emotion at all. Just cold, professional, practiced. The eyes of someone who had done that exact move 1,000 times before in places where mistakes meant death. Yeah, Finch said quietly. Sure, Tank, they'll believe us. But he didn't sound convinced. Not even a little bit. The rumor started before breakfast. By 0600 hours, half the base knew that something had happened in changing room B7. The details were vague, contradictory. The fog of war applied to gossip just as much as combat. But the general shape of the story was clear. Master Chief Dalton had snapped, lost it, attacked Major Brennan without provocation. Unstable woman, the diversity hire finally showing her true colors. Reese heard the whispers in the chow hall. She sat alone at her corner table, back to the wall, always back to the wall, oatmeal cooling in front of her, coffee going cold. Her heart rate was 57 beats per minute, 1 beat slower than yesterday, calm. 3 tables over, a group of young rangers were talking. Not quite loud enough to be confrontational, but loud enough to be heard. I heard she just went crazy, started screaming. Brennan had to defend himself, put her down. Navy's probably going to cover it up. You know how they protect their diversity hires. She shouldn't even be here. This is a ranger base. Reese took a bite of oatmeal, chewed, swallowed, took a sip of coffee. The ritual of eating. The meditation of routine. 20 years of learning to ignore voices that didn't matter. Across the room, Finch sat with Hayes. Both men were quiet, not participating in the gossip, but not stopping it either. Finch's eyes found Reese, held for a moment. He looked away first. Guilty conscience, she thought. Good. That means he's still human. She finished her breakfast, cleaned her tray, walked out. The whispers followed her. They always did. What none of them knew was that Reese had filed her incident report at 17:10 hours the previous day, 27 minutes after the assault, 19 hours before Knox even thought about making up his version, timeline, evidence. The system would work. It had to. At 1100 hours, the email arrived. From Lieutenant Colonel Thaddeus Blackwell, JAG Office, subject formal inquiry incident report required. Master Chief Dalton, you are hereby notified that a formal complaint has been filed against you alleging assault and conduct unbecoming. You are required to submit a written statement within 24 hours. Report to my office at 1400 hours today for initial interview. Reese read it twice. Then she opened her incident report, the one she had filed at 17:10 Zulu the previous day, the one time-stamped 19 hours before Knox's complaint. She forwarded it to Blackwell with a single line. My statement was filed at 17:10 Zulu, 15 March. All relevant facts are contained therein. I have nothing further to add. Then she went back to work. Finding vulnerabilities in the base security protocols. Documenting weaknesses. The job Joint Command had actually sent her to do. At 13:30 hours, her phone buzzed. A text from Harper. Mom got my acceptance letter from Naval Academy. I'm in. Call me when you can. Reese stared at the screen. Her daughter, her baby girl. Following in her footsteps, she typed back, so proud of you. We'll call tonight. Love you. Then she put the phone away. Focus, one crisis at a time. Lieutenant Colonel Thaddeus Blackwell was 43 years old, former prosecutor, current JAG officer, the kind of lawyer who believed in process the way priests believed in God. His office was exactly what Reese expected. Books on military law, diplomas on the wall, a photograph of him in dress blues receiving some award, and one photograph that didn't fit. A young woman in Army uniform. Captain's bars, bright smile, Blackwell's eyes, his sister Reese guessed, and something had happened to her, something that still hurt. Master Chief Dalton, sit. She sat. Blackwell had 3 screens in front of him, documents, reports, the digital machinery of military justice grinding through its gears. I've read Major Brennan's complaint. I've read your incident report. He looked up. They tell very different stories. Yes, sir. His complaint was filed at 08:20 hours this morning. Your report was filed at 17:10 hours yesterday. Blackwell paused. 19 hours earlier. Yes, sir. Why? Because that's when the incident occurred, sir. Regulations require immediate reporting of any assault. You consider what happened an assault? Major Brennan placed his hands around my throat with sufficient force to restrict breathing and blood flow. That meets the definition of aggravated assault under Article 128 UCMJ. Reese met his eyes. Yes, sir. I consider it an assault. Blackwell's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. A lawyer recognizing precision when he heard it. Major Brennan claims you attacked him first. That is incorrect, sir. Can you prove it? Yes, sir. Security camera B71 corner of the changing room. Records continuously to server NKDVR07. Timestamp 1647 to 1651 Zulu. She paused. The footage will corroborate my account exactly. Blackwell typed something, made a note. You're very certain about these details. I'm trained to observe and document, sir. It's what I do for the Navy. Yes, sir. As a technical advisor. Blackwell leaned back, studied her. Master Chief, I'm going to be frank with you. Your service record is the most redacted document I've seen in 15 years as a JAG officer. Whatever you really do for the Navy, it's not technical advisory work. My orders say otherwise, sir. Your orders are a cover story. We both know it, he paused, but that's not my concern right now. My concern is determining what happened in that changing room and whether charges should be filed. I will make that determination based on evidence. Not on rank, not on service branch, not on gender. His voice hardened. Are we clear? Crystal clear, sir. Dismissed, Master Chief. Reese stood, saluted, turned to go. Dalton. She stopped. That photograph. Blackwell's voice changed. Softer now, more human. My sister, Captain Naomi Blackwell. She was assaulted by her commanding officer in 2018. She filed a report. It got buried. She got pushed out, medically retired with PTSD. Reese turned back, said nothing, just listened. I became a JAG officer because of what happened to her, because I believe the system should work, should protect people, should deliver justice regardless of politics or rank or friendship. He looked up at her. I will review the evidence. I will make the right call. I promise you that. Reese nodded once. Thank you, sir. Outside his office, she allowed herself one long breath. The system was working. Maybe. The base-wide announcement came at 1600 hours. Mandatory qualification. Advanced combat dive course. 1400 hours tomorrow. All personnel E7 and above. No exceptions. Report to deep dive facility with full kit. Reese read the notice on her phone. Dive qualification. She hadn't done one of those in 3 years. Not since her last pre-deployment workup with Red Squadron. Her body remembered, though. Muscle memory didn't fade. It just waited. That evening, she pulled her dive gear from the bottom of her footlocker. Draeger Lure 5 rebreather, the Cadillac of combat diving equipment. No bubbles, no noise. The tool of underwater infiltrators who needed to be invisible. She checked every seal, every valve, every connection. Maintenance ritual. Meditation through mechanical precision. The rebreather was a closed-circuit system. Scrubber packed with Sofnolim 797. 4-hour capacity. Depth rating 70 meters. Oxygen partial pressure 0.7 bar. The specifications ran through her mind automatically. 20 years of knowing these systems better than she knew most people. Behind her, James's photograph watched silently. Still got it, baby, she whispered. Still got it. The deep dive facility was a testament to military excess and necessity in equal measure. Olympic-size pool, 25 meters deep, temperature controlled to 58 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to induce hypothermia, warm enough not to kill you immediately. The bottom half of the pool was a maze, pipes, tunnels, obstacles, a simulated ship interior for practicing the kinds of infiltration most people didn't know special operators did. Around the pool deck, 40 soldiers in dive gear waited their turn. At the control station, Command Sergeant Major Dutch Holland stood with a clipboard and a stopwatch, in the expression of a man who had seen 1,000 divers and wasn't impressed by any of them. The evolution was simple in concept, brutal in execution. Navigate 200 meters of underwater maze in pitch darkness. Disarm a magnetic training mine. Retrieve a 40-pound weight from a flooded compartment. Do it all in under 20 minutes without panicking, without dying, without quitting. Most people failed at least one of those requirements. Hayes went first. Entered the water with enthusiasm and poor technique. Too much splashing, too much wasted energy. Dutch watched the monitors showing Hayes' helmet camera, shook his head. At the 15-meter mark, Hayes hit the tunnel section. Pitch black, tight, claustrophobic. His breathing rate spiked, visible on the vital signs monitor. Heart rate jumping from 90 beats per minute to 145. Panic breathing. At 11 minutes, he surfaced. Failure. Dutch marked it down. Uncontrolled ascent, disqualified. Next, Finch went next. Better technique. Controlled breathing. He made it through the tunnel. Reached the mine. The mine was a complex mechanism. 12 steps to disarm. Do them wrong and it locks. Do them right and you get a green light. Finch fumbled. His cold fingers refused to cooperate. The visibility was maybe 6 inches. He was working by feel, by memory, by hope. 5 minutes, 47 seconds later, green light. He retrieved the weight, surfaced. Total time 18 minutes, 12 seconds. Dutch nodded. Functional, barely. Knox was last of his team. He dove with confidence. Former Ranger, multiple deployments. This wasn't his first time underwater in full kit. He powered through the tunnel. Not elegant, but effective. Brute force and determination. The mine took him 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Aggressive approach. No finesse. But it worked. He retrieved the weight. Surfaced. 16 minutes, 54 seconds. Not bad. Not great. But passing. Knox pulled off his mask. Looked at Dutch. Beat that. Dutch just stared at him. The look of a man who had forgotten more about diving than Knox would ever learn. We'll see, Major. The morning dragged. Diver after diver. Times ranging from 15 minutes to outright failures. By 1200 hours, Knox still had the best time. He was sitting on the pool deck, holding court, his rangers around him, confident, validated. Nobody's beating that time, he said. 1654, that's damn good. Finch was quiet. He had been quiet all morning, his mind somewhere else. Finally, at 12:45 hours, Dutch called the last name on his list. Master Chief Dalton, you're up. Reese walked to the pool edge. Her gear was already checked. Rebreather, mask, fins. the weight belt that brought her total carry to 68 pounds. Around the pool, conversation stopped. Everyone wanted to see this. The crazy female Master Chief who had supposedly attacked Major Brennan, the diversity hire, the relic. Let's see if she can even make it through the course. Knox was watching, arms crossed, that smirk on his face, the look of someone waiting for validation. Reese ignored him, ignored all of them. She closed her eyes. 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. Breath control, heart rate dropping. 58, 56, 54. Dutch walked over, stood close, spoke quietly so only she could hear. Remember, Coronado Reese, you and me. What did I teach you? Water is a friend, Dutch, not an enemy. Show them. She opened her eyes, put in her mouthpiece, checked her mask seal one last time. Then she stepped off the platform. The entry was textbook perfect. Minimal splash, body knife straight, slicing into the water like it was made for her. She disappeared beneath the surface. In the control room, Dutch watched the monitor. Her helmet camera showed the underwater maze appearing in low-light monochrome. Her breathing was visible in the rebreather cycle. Slow, controlled, rhythmic as a heartbeat. She entered the tunnel system. Most divers fought the tunnel, pushed through it, made it an adversary. Reese flowed through it. Her body positioning was horizontal, perfectly streamlined, minimal drag. She used only her fingertips on the walls, reading the space like Braille. No wasted contact, no unnecessary friction. Dutch leaned closer to the screen. That technique, he had seen it before. 20 years ago, when he helped teach advanced underwater infiltration to a dev group class that had started with 16 students and graduated 3. Finger walk navigation, the most advanced technique in combat diving. No, he whispered, it can't be. But it was. On the monitor, Reese reached the mine in 6 minutes, 30 seconds. Her hands moved over the mechanism with surgical precision. Step 1, step 2, 3 through 12. Without hesitation, without fumbling, 73 seconds. Start to finish. Dutch's jaw dropped. Finch had taken 5 minutes, 47 seconds. Knox had taken 3 minutes, 30. Reese had just done it in 1 minute, 13. That wasn't training. That was muscle memory. Years of practice. Combat repetitions in environments where mistakes meant death. She moved to the flooded compartment. The final test, vertical shaft, 1.2 meters diameter, 8 meters deep, total darkness. Tight enough to trigger claustrophobia in anyone with sense. Reese inverted, pulled herself down hand over hand. Her breathing stayed controlled. Her heart rate on the monitor was 64 beats per minute, slower than most people's resting rate. She secured the weight, started back up. Halfway up, the weight shifted, caught on her harness, jammed against the shaft wall. A complication. Unplanned. The kind of thing that could trigger panic. Reese stopped. Didn't fight it. Problem solving. She rotated the weight 45 degrees, cleared the obstruction, continued upward. She surfaced at the far end of the pool. Dutch clicked his stopwatch. 9 minutes, 41 seconds. The observation deck was silent. Knox had done 16 minutes, 54 seconds. Reese had just beaten him by 7 minutes and 13 seconds. She had used 31% of her air supply. Knox had used 91. She climbed out of the pool, removed her gear with the same methodical precision. She did everything. No celebration, no acknowledgement, just routine. Dutch walked over, his face unreadable. 9:41, he said quietly, with a complication. It's just water, Dutch. No. His voice dropped to a whisper only she could hear. That was Dev Gru. That was Red Squadron. That was the real deal. Reese met his eyes, said nothing. Dutch looked at the assembled soldiers, raised his voice. Master Chief Dalton, outstanding performance. Best dive time in this facility's history. Congratulations. The silence continued for another beat. Then a senior NCO in the back started clapping. Slowly at first, then others joined. The sound building. Not enthusiastic, not quite accepting, but acknowledging. They had seen something they couldn't deny. On the deck, Knox sat frozen. His face had gone pale. That smirk was gone. Finch was staring at Reese with something like horror in his eyes, because he understood now. What he had seen in the changing room hadn't been lucky. It had been professional. This woman wasn't some washed-up advisor. She was something else entirely, something dangerous, something they had just made a terrible mistake antagonizing. The second round of qualifications started at 1,400 hours, retest for those who had failed, improvement runs for those who wanted better scores. Finch volunteered. I can do better, he told Knox. 18 minutes isn't good enough. Knox shrugged. Your funeral. Finch entered the water. His technique was improved, more controlled. He had been watching Reese, learning. He made it through the tunnel faster this time, reached the mine, started the disarm sequence, and then everything went wrong. At 18 meters, his rebreather malfunctioned. The scrubber failed. Carbon dioxide building in the loop, the thing that killed combat divers more than anything else. Hypercapnia, the silent killer. Finch felt it first as dizziness, then confusion, then the terrible realization that he couldn't breathe. CO2 was flooding his system, his body screaming for oxygen, but getting poison instead. He tried to surface, too fast. The maze was above him, blocking his path. Panic set in. His heart rate spiked. 140, 160, 180. He was drowning, 18 meters down, in the dark, alone. In the control room, Dutch saw it on the monitors. Diver in distress. Get the rescue team in there now. But the rescue team was on the far side of the facility. 60 seconds minimum. Finch had maybe 40. Reese was on deck, resting, rehydrating. She heard Dutch's shout, looked at the monitor, saw Finch's vital signs going critical. She didn't think. She grabbed her mask, her rebreather, her fins, and she dove. No warm-up, no preparation, no consideration for her own safety. Just movement, pure instinct, 20 years of training taking over. She hit the water like a torpedo, powered down through the tunnel system she had already navigated twice that day. 18 meters, 30 seconds. She found Finch in the flooded compartment. He was thrashing, clawing at his mask, the universal sign of a diver who had lost all rational thought, drowning in his own equipment. Reese grabbed him from behind, controlled his arms, pulled his failed rebreather mouthpiece free, shoved her own mouthpiece into his mouth. Buddy breathing, the oldest rescue technique in diving. One mouthpiece, two divers, shared air. Finch's eyes were wild, terrified. He grabbed at the mouthpiece like a drowning man grabs at anything that floats. Reese held him, counted the seconds, pulled the mouthpiece back, took her own breath, gave it back to him. 3 breaths for him, 1 for her. The ratio that kept panicked divers alive. Look at me. Her voice was muffled by water, but calm, so calm. Garrett, look at me. His eyes found hers. We're going up, slow, together. You breathe when I give you the mouthpiece. You hold when I take it back. Understand? He nodded, frantic, but listening. Good, let's go. She started the ascent, one hand controlling Finch, one hand controlling their buoyancy, the mouthpiece passing between them every 15 seconds. 18 meters to surface safely, 120 seconds required. Anything faster and the nitrogen in their blood would bubble. The bends, paralysis, death. Reese counted, timed it perfectly. At 9 meters, Finch started to panic again. No! Her voice was still calm. Stay with me. 9 more meters. 60 more seconds. You can do this. He stopped thrashing. At 3 meters, she slowed even more. Safety stop, the most critical part of the ascent. 30 seconds of hovering, letting their bodies adjust. Finch was shaking, cold, terrified, but alive. Reese held him steady, counted down, surfaced. The rescue team was there, reaching down, pulling Finch up onto the deck. Reese followed, pulled off her mask, checked Finch's vitals. Airway clear, breathing stable, conscious. He was going to be fine. Dutch was beside her in an instant. 9 minutes 41 in the qualification. Now a cold water rescue at 18 meters. He shook his head. You're trying to give me a heart attack. He was drowning Dutch. I know. The rescue team was 60 seconds out. He had 40. I know that too. Reese looked at Finch. He was on his back, staring at the ceiling, the tears streaming down his face. He's going to be okay, Dutch said. Because of you. She stood, started gathering her gear. Master Chief? She turned. Dutch was looking at her with something she hadn't seen in years. Respect. Not the grudging acknowledgement she had earned with her dive time. Real respect. You just saved the life of a man who tried to destroy your career. He was drowning Dutch. That's all that mattered. She walked away. Behind her, Knox stood at the edge of the pool. He had watched the whole thing. The dive, the rescue, the impossible calm of a woman he had dismissed as useless. Finch was sitting up now, a medic checking his vitals. But his eyes were on Reese. Tank. Finch's voice was raw, hoarse. Tank, I was dying. I was actually dying. Knox said nothing, and she didn't even hesitate. Finch's voice cracked. After what we did to her, after what we said, after we tried to ruin her career. He looked at Knox, She still saved me. Knox's jaw tightened. That's not, that's not what Tank, that's not what we were told about diversity hires about women in combat. Finch's voice was rising. That woman just saved my life. After we assaulted her. After we lied about her. Shut up, Garrett. I said shut up. Knox walked away. But something had changed. Something fundamental. The certainty he had carried for 20 years. That he knew what warriors looked like. What they sounded like. What they were. Had cracked. And through that crack, doubt was seeping in. That night at 2200 hours, Dutch made a phone call. Lieutenant Colonel Blackwell, it's Command Sergeant Major Holland. Sergeant Major, it's late. I know, sir, but we need to talk about the Dalton inquiry, about Master Chief Dalton herself. Dutch paused. About who she really is, and about what those Rangers just stepped into. Silence on the line. Then, I'm listening. Sir, I'm going to tell you a story about a young sailor I met 20 years ago, about what she became, and about why Major Brennan just made the worst mistake of his military career. Dutch took a breath. Her operational call sign was Ghost, and there's a reason for that. The next morning, Reese received a second email from Blackwell. This one was different. Master Chief Dalton, based on new information that has come to light, I am accelerating the review process. A formal captain's mast has been scheduled for 0800 hours, 2 days from now. You are required to appear in service dress blues. The proceedings will determine whether criminal charges are filed under the UCMJ. You will have the opportunity to present evidence and testimony. Failure to appear will result in immediate court-martial proceedings. Additionally, I'm requesting that security footage from Changing Room B7 be preserved and prepared for presentation. I have also requested testimony from Command Sergeant Major Holland and other relevant witnesses. A 48-hour deadline has been established. All parties will resolve this matter before this deadline or face court-martial. This is to ensure swift and fair resolution. Respectfully, LTC Thaddeus Blackwell JAG. Reese read it 3 times. Then she stood, walked to her window, looked out over the training grounds where soldiers were running PT in the morning heat. 48 hours, 2 days. Then the truth would come out, all of it. She turned to James's photograph. Here we go, baby. Last fight. Then I come home to you and Harper. That evening, there was a knock on her door at 0200 hours. She opened it. Finch stood in the hallway, civilian clothes, eyes red, the look of a man who hadn't slept. Chief, can I come in? She stepped aside, let him in. He sat, hands shaking, wouldn't meet her eyes. I can't sleep, he said finally. Can't eat, can't function. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back in that shaft, drowning. And then you're there, sharing your air, saving me. His voice broke. After what we did, Reese said nothing, just waited. The laptop, the lies, the assault. We tried to destroy you. Finch looked up, tears in his eyes. And you still saved me. Why? Because you were drowning Garrett. That's it. That's the only reason. That's the only reason that mattered. He put his face in his hands. How do I live with this? With what I did? Reese sat across from him. You tell the truth, tomorrow, at the captain's mast. You tell exactly what happened. I'll lose my career. Knox will hate me. Colonel Stone will... Your career isn't worth your soul, Reese interrupted. And Colonel Stone's opinion isn't worth your integrity. Finch was quiet for a long moment. Then my father, Captain Marcus Finch, he was killed in Iraq, 2006, IED strike. I know, Reese said softly. Before he deployed, he told me something. He said, the hardest thing you'll ever do in the military isn't pulling a trigger. It's knowing when not to. It's choosing to be better than the worst thing you could do. Finch's voice was steady now, clearer. I forgot that. Somewhere along the way. I forgot what he was trying to teach me. You're remembering now. Because of you. He looked at her. Chief, I'm going to tell Blackwell everything. The truth. All of it. Knox pressuring us. Stone's orders to maintain the story. The camera evidence we knew was there. Everything. That takes courage. No. Finch shook his head. Diving back in to save me when I was drowning, that was courage. This is just the bare minimum of being human. He stood to leave. Stopped at the door. Chief, why did you save me, really? After everything? Reese met his eyes. Because 20 years ago, I failed to save a man named Robert Brennan. He was Knox's father. He died in my arms on a mountain in Afghanistan. And his last words were, get my boys home. Promise me. I promised. She paused. Yesterday you were drowning. You were someone's boy, someone's son, And I had a chance to get you home, so I did. Finch stared at her. You knew. This whole time. You knew who Knox was. Yes. And you never said anything. It wasn't my place to say. Chief. Finch's voice was thick. I'm sorry. For all of it. I know. That's why you're going to tell the truth tomorrow? After he left, Reese sat alone in her quarters. The 48-hour deadline ticking down. 2 days until the captain's mast. 2 days until Knox learned the truth about his father. 2 days until everything changed. She looked at her 203-notch notebook, at James's photograph, at the challenge coin from Red Squadron. 20 years of carrying secrets. 20 years of keeping promises. 20 years of being the ghost. 2 more days, then she could finally rest. Outside her window, the Arizona night was clear. Stars visible in the desert sky. Somewhere out there, Harper was sleeping in her Phoenix apartment, dreaming of the Naval Academy, of following in her mother's footsteps. But not the same steps. Different ones. Better ones. Reese closed her eyes. 56 beats per minute. Calm, controlled, ready. The reckoning was coming, and she would face it the way she had faced everything else in her life. With precision, with honor, with the cold, quiet certainty of someone who had done the right thing, even when the right thing cost everything. 2 more days, then the truth, then peace. The captain's mast convened at 0800 hours. The briefing room was arranged in a U-shape, formal, deliberate, every detail calibrated for maximum psychological impact. At the head of the table sat Brigadier General Catherine Price, 56 years old, first female commander of a joint special operations training facility, a face that had weathered 33 years of command decisions. To her right, Lieutenant Colonel Thaddeus Blackwell, JAG officer, prosecutor today. To her left, Command Sergeant Major Dutch Holland, witness, observer, the old warrior who had seen enough in 42 years to know exactly what was about to happen. On one side of the U sat 3 men in Class A uniforms. Major Knox Brennan, 35 years old Ranger, his jaw tight, eyes forward, the posture of a man preparing for combat. Captain Garrett Finch, Bronze Star recipient, his hands folded in his lap, head slightly bowed, guilt visible in every line of his body. Staff Sergeant Declan Hayes, weapons specialist, looking straight ahead, trying to be invisible. Failing. Opposite them sat Master Chief Reese Dalton, service dress blues, the formal uniform she had worn maybe 5 times in 23 years. Each time for something significant. Promotion ceremonies, awards, funerals. Today it was judgment. The uniform fit perfectly, tailored, professional. But it was the ribbons that told the story. Top row silver star with 1 gold star device. 2 awards, second row bronze star with valor. 4 bronze oak leaf clusters. 5 awards. Third row purple heart with 2 bronze oak leaf clusters. 3 awards, wounded 3 times. Continued mission every time. The rows continued. Campaign medals, service ribbons, unit citations, 27 ribbons total. Knox had 9. The visual contrast was devastating. Price let the silence build. Old commander's trick. Let the tension do the work. Finally, she spoke. This is a captain's mast, Rusamad. Non-judicial hearing under Article 15 Uniform Code of Military Justice. The proceedings are formal. They are recorded. They will determine whether criminal charges are filed under the UCMJ. Her eyes moved to Knox. Major Knox Brennan, you stand accused of assault under Article 128, false official statements under Article 107, conduct unbecoming an officer under Article 134. She paused. How do you plead? Knox stood, rigid. Not guilty, ma'am. I acted in self-defense against an unprovoked attack. Noted. Price gestured. Sit. Lieutenant Colonel Blackwell, present your evidence. Blackwell stood, activated the large view screen. Ma'am, on March 16th at 0820 hours, my office received a formal complaint from Major Brennan corroborated by Captain Finch and Staff Sergeant Hayes. The complaint alleged that Master Chief Dalton attacked Major Brennan without provocation in changing room B7. The screen displayed the complaint. Official, detailed, 3 signatures. However, Blackwell's voice was clinical, precise. Master Chief Dalton had already filed an incident report at 1710 hours the previous day, 19 hours before Major Brennan's complaint. The timeline appeared on screen. 2 files. Timestamps clear and unambiguous. Knox's face tightened. Ma'am, one of these reports is provably false. The timeline makes that mathematically certain. Blackwell pulled up the next exhibit. I requested security footage from changing room B7. This footage is unedited. Timestamp verified. Retrieved directly from server NKDBR07. The lights dimmed. The video played. No sound at first. Just visuals. 16:47:15 Zulu. Reese alone, folding her uniform with mechanical precision. Each movement deliberate, calm. 16:47:42. The door opens. Knox enters. Finch and Hayes behind him, their body language aggressive. Knox's shoulders squared, fists clenched. 16:48:10. Verbal confrontation. Reese standing still. Knox moving closer, invading her space, his mouth moving. Angry. 16:48:47. Reese looks directly at the camera, points to it, says something. Knox's response is visible. Rage, dismissal, steps closer. 16:49:3. Blackwell stopped the video. Ma'am, I'm going to zoom on this frame. The image magnified, enhanced, crystal clear. Knox's hands around Reese's throat, thumbs on the trachea, fingers on the carotids. Textbook choke position. Reese's face calm, no fear, no anger, just observation. Finch put his face in his hands. Hayes stared at the floor. Knox's jaw muscles worked, but he said nothing. And with audio, Blackwell said. The video rewound, played again. This time the sound was devastating. Knox's voice, loud, aggressive. Look what we got, boys. The Navy's advisor. Silence from Reese. The sound of fabric folding. I'm talking to you, Master Chief. Reese's voice, level, professional. I hear you, Major. The escalation was clear. Knox's anger building, his words cutting. Nobody knows what you do here. You're not training anyone, not running missions, just taking up space. I do my job, Major. Your job, bitter laugh. What is your job besides being the Navy's diversity checkbox? Then the critical moment. My father died in Afghanistan, March 15th, 2004. Real warriors, not whatever you are. A pause, then Reese's voice, still calm, still professional, giving him a way out. Major, there's a camera. Red light, corner. It's recording what you're doing right now. You think I care about a camera? Knox's voice rising. You're useless. You're a relic. The sound of the shove, then the assault. Knox's breathing. Harsh, angry, the grip tightening. 2.3 seconds of silence. Then the metallic clang of a body hitting a locker. Gasping, confusion, shock. The video continued. Reese adjusting her collar, picking up her bag, walking out. Not one word. The screen went dark. The silence in the room was absolute. Price's face was carved from stone. Major Brennan, you told my JAG officer that Master Chief Dalton attacked you without provocation. The evidence shows otherwise. Her voice was ice. Explain. Knox opened his mouth, closed it. The blood had drained from his face. Ma'am, it was, what Major A, misunderstanding. You misunderstood your hands around her throat. Ma'am, she provoked. She warned you. Price's voice cut like a blade. She told you about the camera, gave you a chance to walk away. You proceeded anyway. That's not provocation, Major. That's premeditation. Blackwell pulled up the next exhibit. Ma'am, yesterday all parties participated in the Advanced Combat Dive qualification. The performance data is relevant to character assessment. The screen showed a comparison chart. Hayes, 11 minutes, failed course. Heart rate 145 BPM during panic. Finch, 18 minutes, 12 seconds, passed. Air consumption, 82%. Heart rate 118 BPM. Knox, 16 minutes, 54 seconds, passed. Air consumption, 91%. Heart rate 101 BPM. Dalton, 9 minutes, 41 seconds, exceptional. Air consumption, 31%. Heart rate 64 BPM, the numbers spoke for themselves. Master Chief Dalton's performance was 57% faster than the next best time. Blackwell continued. She used 68% less air than Major Brennan. He paused, and she performed a mid-course rescue of Captain Finch when his rebreather failed. Finch stood without being asked. Ma'am, permission to speak. Price nodded. Granted. Ma'am, I was drowning. My rebreather malfunctioned at 18 meters. I had maybe 40 seconds before I blacked out. His voice was steady, but his eyes were wet. Master Chief Dalton saw it. She abandoned her rest period, dove back in, swam to me, shared her air. Buddy breathed with me, calmed me down, got me to safety. He looked at Reese for the first time. After what we did to her, after we tried to destroy her career, his voice cracked. She still saved my life. That's not the action of someone unstable, ma'am. That's the action of a professional. Sit down, Captain. Finch sat. Price looked at Dutch. Sergeant Major, you trained Master Chief Dalton. What can you tell this board? Dutch stood. every inch the soldier who had earned his stripes in blood. Ma'am Reese Dalton graduated Bud's Class 237 in 2004, first female to complete the program. I was one of her primary instructors. His voice was gravel and certainty. In 42 years of training special operators, I've seen 4 people dive like she did yesterday. All 4 were Dev Grew. All 4 were among the best warriors this nation has ever produced. He paused. Let that sink in. The techniques she used in that pool, finger walk navigation, minimal contact propulsion, extended breath hold under stress, those are taught at Advanced Underwater Sabotage School. The course I helped design in 1985, the course with a 92% attrition rate. His eyes found Knox. Ma'am, that woman has forgotten more about combat operations than most people will ever learn. If she's accused of assault, someone made a catastrophic error in judgment. He paused. And it wasn't her. Thank you, Sergeant Major. Sit. Price picked up a folder. The classified one. The one that told the real story. Major Brennan, you called Master Chief Dalton a relic. Useless. A diversity hire taking up space real operators could use. She opened the folder. Read slowly, each word a hammer blow. Master Chief Reese Marie Dalton, Naval Special Warfare Development Group. She looked up. Dev grew. Knox's eyes went wide. Service dates 2004 to 2024, 20 years active duty. Price continued reading. Clinical, devastating. Operational call sign, Ghost. The name hung in the air. Ghost. Even soldiers who had never worked with Dev Grew knew that name. The legend who could slip into enemy compounds and slip out again before anyone knew she'd been there. The sniper who had more confirmed kills than anyone in modern Spec Ops history. Operational deployments, 13 combat tours, 47 countries, direct action missions, 200 plus. She paused. Confirmed combat record, 203 confirmed kills. The number hit like a physical blow. 203, more than everyone in this room combined. More than most infantry battalions. The body count of a ghost who had spent 2 decades hunting America's enemies in places the public would never hear about. Decorations. Price continued reading. 2 silver stars, 5 bronze stars with valor, 3 purple hearts, multiple campaign ribbons, unit citations too numerous to list. She looked up. Major Brennan, the woman you assaulted has served this country longer than you've been in uniform. She has more combat experience than everyone in this room combined. She's been shot 4 times, stabbed twice, survived 3 IED attacks. Price's voice dropped. She kept fighting every single time. Knox was shaking now, the reality crashing down, the understanding that he had just destroyed his career by choking a living legend. But Price wasn't done. She opened a second folder. Older, pages yellowed with age. Major Brennan, your father was Lieutenant Colonel Robert Brennan. Is that correct? Knox's head snapped up. Ma'am, your father, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Brennan, Army Forward Observer, killed in action March 15, 2004? Operation Red Wings, Afghanistan. Yes, ma'am. Knox's voice was barely a whisper. Did you know Master Chief Dalton was on that mission? The world stopped. Knox stared. Finch stared. Hayes stared. Reese sat perfectly still. Face neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Memory. Pain. Old grief. What? Knox managed. Price read from the file. Operation Red Wings, March 15, 2004. Quick Reaction Force. Petty Officer Reese Dalton. Age 23, first deployment. She looked up. That was her first combat mission, Major. She was 23 years old, 2 years in the Navy, barely qualified, and she was on the helicopter sent to rescue your father's team. Knox couldn't breathe. The helicopter was hit by RPG fire at 8,000 feet, crashed on a mountain ridge. 7 survivors out of 12. Price's voice was steady, relentless. Petty Officer Dalton was one of them. Knox's hands were trembling. She organized the survivors, led them through enemy fire to your father's position, found him critically wounded, shrapnel to the abdomen, arterial bleeding. Price paused. Petty Officer Dalton applied the tourniquet, applied pressure to the wound. Then she carried your father. Carried him, Major, 400 meters down a mountain through active enemy fire to a secondary landing zone. Knox's face was white, tears forming. Your father died 12 minutes into the medevac flight. Blood loss. Price's voice softened just slightly. But Petty Officer Dalton did everything right. Everything. The after-action review found no fault. She was recommended for a Bronze Star. It got downgraded to a Navy commendation because of her age and rank. She pulled out one more sheet. The oldest document, handwritten notes from a medevac crew chief. The flight crew recorded your father's last words. Do you want to know what he said? Knox nodded, unable to speak. Price read, tell my son Kyle I loved him. Tell him I'm proud of him. Tell him to be better than me. The tears fell now, Knox's shoulders shaking. The rage, the grief, the 20 years of misdirected anger collapsing under the weight of truth. That message was delivered to your family via standard KIA notification. But the details, who tried to save him, how hard they fought, who held his hand as he died, those weren't included in the letter. Price closed the folder. Major Brennan, you just assaulted the woman who tried to save your father's life, who carried his body through enemy fire, who was 23 years old and terrified and did her job anyway. The silence was complete. Then Reese spoke, for the first time since the mast began. Her voice was quiet, controlled. But underneath was an ocean of emotion kept in check by pure discipline. Major Brennan, he looked at her. Eyes red, face destroyed. Your father was the bravest man I ever saw. He'd taken 4 rounds and he was still calling out enemy positions, still directing fire, still protecting his team. She paused, choosing her words carefully. When I reached him, he looked at me, this scared 23-year-old kid who had no business being on that mountain, and he said, get my boys home. Promise me. Knox was sobbing openly now. I promised. I kept that promise. We got 11 men off that mountain that day. Your father made that possible. His last act was making sure his team survived. A breath. Slow. Controlled. His last words were about you, Kyle. He said, tell my son I loved him. Tell him I'm proud of him. Tell him to be better than me. Reese leaned forward slightly. I never delivered that message. KIA notifications don't include those details. For 20 years, I've carried those words. Waiting. She met his eyes. I'm sorry I couldn't save him. God knows I tried. I think about him every March 15th. I think about what I could have done differently, what I missed, where I failed. Her voice hardened just a fraction. But your father didn't die because of incompetence. He died because war is ugly and random and cruel. He died protecting his team. That's honorable. That's worthy. That's what he chose. She sat back. You want to honor him? Stop trying to be him. Be the man he wanted you to become. Be the officer who brings his soldiers home. All of them. Even the ones who don't look like you. Even the ones you don't understand. Her voice dropped. That's what your father would have wanted. The room was silent. Price let it sit. Let Knox process. Let the truth do its work. Finally she spoke. Major Knox Brennan, you are found guilty of assault under Article 128. False official statements under Article 107. Conduct unbecoming an officer under Article 134. Knox stood, swaying slightly. Normally, I would reduce you to private, transfer you to disciplinary barracks, end your career in disgrace. A pause. However, your father's sacrifice is documented. Your own combat record, while not approaching Master Chief Dalton's, is solid, and she has requested leniency. Knox looked at Reese, shocked. I'm offering you a choice. Price's voice was steel. Choice 1, accept reduction in rank to captain. 60 days restriction, transfer to a staff position. Your career continues, but you will never command troops again. She let that sink in. Choice 2, accept reduction to captain. Request immediate transfer to a forward deployed combat unit. Afghanistan, Iraq. Wherever we need experienced officers who understand what they did wrong and want to make it right. Her eyes bored into Knox. You deploy. You lead. You bring your people home. You prove that your father's sacrifice meant something, that his son learned what matters. Knox straightened, found his voice. Ma'am, I request combat deployment. I need to earn back my name, his name. Price nodded. Granted, you deploy in 30 days. She paused. And Captain Brennan, when you're out there, remember what your father taught you. Remember what Master Chief Dalton just showed you? Her voice dropped. Bring your people home, all of them. Yes, ma'am. Captain Finch, you are found guilty of false official statement under Article 107. However, you came forward voluntarily, amended your statement, took responsibility. That shows integrity. Finch stood. Reduction to first lieutenant, 30 days restriction. Sentence suspended. You're assigned to Master Chief Dalton's technical team. Learn from her. Become the officer you are capable of being. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Staff Sergeant Hayes, you are found guilty of false official statement, reduction to sergeant. 60 days restriction, Dismissed. Price looked at Reese. Master Chief Dalton, you demonstrated exceptional professionalism under assault. Your conduct reflects great credit upon yourself and the Naval Service. This board finds no fault with your actions. You are commended. She paused. And on behalf of the United States military, I apologize that you were put in this position. You deserve better. Reese stood, saluted. Thank you, ma'am. Dismissed. All of you. The room emptied slowly. In the hallway outside, Knox stopped Reese. Chief, can I ask you something? She turned, waited. My father, in those last minutes, was he in pain? Reese considered the question, the truth. What would help versus what would hurt? The morphine helped, she said quietly. But yes, he was in pain. He bore it well, like a soldier. Like a father who wanted his son to be proud of how he faced the end. Did he say anything else? Anything I should know? Another pause, another decision. He talked about you the whole helicopter ride. Even when he was fading, he kept saying your name. Kyle, my boy, my Kyle. She met his eyes. He said you were 14, that you played hockey, that you wanted to follow him into the Army. He said he hoped you'd choose a different path, something safer. But he knew you wouldn't, because you were stubborn like him. Knox smiled through tears. I was 14. I did play hockey. I did join the Army. He knew you would. He was proud anyway. Scared but proud. Thank you, Chief, for telling me, for trying to save him, for not hating me after what I did. Reese studied him, this broken man, this son trying to fill his father's boots. Captain Brennan, your father died 20 years ago. You've been carrying his ghost ever since. It's time to let him rest. I don't know how. You start by deploying, by leading, by bringing your team home alive. She paused. That's all any of us can do. She walked away. Behind her, Knox stood alone in the hallway, crying, grieving, finally beginning to heal. That afternoon, the entire base assembled for formation. 600 soldiers on the parade ground, the sun beating down, temperature 106 degrees, standard for March in the Arizona desert. General Price stood at the podium. Reese at attention behind her. Tradition, honored personnel on display. Price didn't use notes. Yesterday, this command held a captain's mast. 3 soldiers were found guilty of assault and false statements against a senior NCO. Her voice carried across the silent formation. I want to be crystal clear about something. This unit is a family, but families have standards, and our standard is excellence. She let that word hang. We do not prey on our own. We do not mistake quiet competence for weakness. We do not assume that because someone doesn't brag, they have nothing to be proud of. She gestured to Reese. Master Chief Reese Dalton has served this nation for 20 years. She's deployed to more countries than most of you can name. She's seen combat you can't imagine. She's saved lives you'll never hear about. The formation was motionless, listening. Yesterday, she saved one of her accusers from drowning, after what he'd done to her, after what he'd said about her, after he tried to destroy her career. Price paused. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's leadership. That's what we aspire to. She paused again. That is the standard. A senior NCO in the front rank started to clap. Slow, deliberate. Others joined. The sound building, spreading through the formation like fire through dry grass. Not enthusiastic, not quite welcoming, but acknowledging. They had seen the evidence. They had heard the testimony. They knew the truth. Reese stood at attention, eyes forward, but they glistened in the harsh sunlight. After the formation, she walked to the equipment building, alone, needing space, needing quiet, needing a moment to process everything that had happened. Dutch found her there, sitting on a bench, staring at her hands. Reese, she looked up. Dutch. He sat beside her, said nothing for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out something wrapped in cloth. This is yours, has been for 20 years. I just didn't know where you were to give it back. She unwrapped it, a unit patch, black circle, silver phoenix rising, wings forming an anchor. Latin inscription, Fidelis in Silentio. Faithful in silence, Red Squadron, Dev Gru, the unit she had bled for, killed for, lost James for. Dutch, I can't. You can. You never stopped being one of us, Reese. You just went on a different mission for a while. He paused. Raising Harper, healing, finding yourself again. He stood, looked down at her. Your war isn't over. It's just changing, from bullets to teaching, from taking life to preserving it. He smiled. That's evolution, not weakness. He saluted, sharp, perfect, the respect of one warrior for another. She stood, returned it. After he left, Reese attached the patch to her uniform. 20 years gone, but still hers. Still earned, still real. 3 weeks later, Knox's unit shipped out. Reese was at the airfield, not required to be there. But she came anyway. Knox found her as his team boarded. Chief, thank you for coming. Bring them home, Captain. All of them. I will, he hesitated. Chief, when I get back, if I get back, I'd like to buy you a drink. Hear more about my father if you're willing. I'm willing, but you're buying. Deal. He turned to board, stopped. Chief, what my father said about being better than him. I think I finally understand what he meant. What's that? He didn't mean better at fighting, better at killing. Knox's voice was steady now, clear. He meant better at everything else. Better at mercy, better at leading, better at knowing when not to fight. Reese nodded slowly. He'd be proud of you for figuring that out. I hope so. He boarded the plane. The ramp closed. The aircraft lifted off into the Arizona sky. Reese watched until it disappeared. 6 months passed. Reese's quarters were mostly packed. Her 18 months were almost complete. 2 more weeks, then terminal leave, then civilian life. A small diving school in the Florida Keys. Harper visiting on holidays. A house near the water where the only explosions were waves breaking on the shore. Peace, if such a thing existed for people like her. She was folding uniforms when the email arrived. From Captain Knox Brennan. Subject promised update. Chief Dalton, 6 months in Afghanistan. My team is intact, all present, all accounted for. We had contact last week. Ambush, bad terrain, outnumbered 3-1. I remembered what you said, what my father would have wanted. I got my people out, every single one. We're rotating home next month. That drink's still on the table. Brennan. P.S. They've started calling me Ghost Jr. around here. Not sure if that's a compliment or an insult. Figured you'd know. Reese smiled, typed a reply. Captain Brennan, it's a compliment. Trust me. Drink's on you. Don't forget. Ghost Senior. Another email. This one from Finch. Chief, finished my rotation with your technical team. Learned more in 6 months than 4 years of training. Requesting assignment to Naval Special Warfare Liaison. Want to keep working with professionals. Thank you for everything. Respectfully, 1 LT Garrett Finch. She replied, request approved. You'll do fine. A knock on her door. Reese opened it. Dutch stood in the hallway holding a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. Heard you're leaving soon. 2 weeks. Figured we should celebrate. Or mourn, depending on your perspective. She stepped aside. Let him in. They sat at her desk. Dutch poured 2 fingers each. They drank in silence. 23 years, Dutch said finally. That's a hell of a run. Feels like 100. Feels like yesterday. Feels like yesterday to me. He swirled his whiskey. I remember the first time I saw you. This scrawny kid showing up to butt assets. All the instructors made bets on how long you'd last. What did you bet? I didn't bet, he smiled. I knew. Knew what? That you'd make it. That you'd be one of the best I ever trained. He paused. I was right. Reese looked at her glass, at the amber liquid catching the light. I killed 203 people, Dutch. 203 human beings who woke up one morning not knowing it was their last. They were enemies. They would have killed Americans if you hadn't stopped them. I know, but sometimes, she trailed off, sometimes you wonder if it was worth it. Yeah. Dutch set down his glass, looked at her with eyes that had seen everything she had seen and more. Reese, let me tell you something I've never told anyone. She waited. I've got 47 notches in my own book. 47 men I killed in Vietnam, in Grenada, in Panama, in Desert Storm. 47 faces I see when I close my eyes. He leaned forward. And I would do it all again. Every single one. Because every single one was necessary. Every single one saved American lives. Every single one was a choice between them and us. His voice hardened. The people you killed were trying to kill us. They made their choice. You made yours. Don't apologize for surviving. Don't apologize for being good at your job. Reese met his eyes. Is that how you live with it? That's how I started living with it. How I kept living with it was different. He finished his whiskey. I trained people like you. People who would carry the mission forward. People who would do what I did but better. Smarter. With fewer ghosts. He stood. Walked to the door. Stopped. That's what you're doing now, Reese. With Brennan. With Finch. With every person you've touched since you got here. You're passing it on, making sure it meant something. And if it didn't mean something, it did. Dutch's voice was absolute. I promise you it did. He left. Reese sat alone with her whiskey and her ghosts and the slowly dawning realization that Dutch was right. The war wasn't over. It was just changing, and she still had a role to play. The retirement ceremony was scheduled for 1400 hours on a Thursday. Reese stood in front of her mirror. Service dress blues. Every ribbon in place. Every crease perfect. The uniform she had worn for 23 years. The uniform that had defined her. Protected her. Nearly killed her. Today would be the last time she ever wore it. She looked at herself. Really looked. 43 years old. Lines around her eyes that hadn't been there 10 years ago. Gray streaks in her hair that she had stopped dyeing. Scars on her hands that told stories she could never share. Who are you going to be now? She whispered to her reflection. The reflection didn't answer. A knock on the door. Come in. Harper entered. Naval Academy, summer whites. Plebe year starting in 3 months. Her daughter, her legacy, her reason for surviving. Mom, you ready? Almost. Harper walked over, stood beside her at the mirror. You look beautiful. I look old. You look like a warrior who earned her rest. Reese turned, looked at her daughter. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best. They hugged, held on. The embrace of two women who had lost everything and found their way back to each other. Dad would be proud, Harper whispered, of both of us. Yeah, of both of us. The ceremony was brief, dignified, the way Reese wanted it. General Price spoke, Dutch spoke, the flag was presented. The ribbons were saluted one last time, and then it was over. Master Chief Reese Dalton walked out of the auditorium in civilian clothes. 23 years of service behind her, the rest of her life ahead. 3 months later, Reese stood on the dock of Dalton Dive School. Crystal blue water, white sand, the smell of salt and freedom. She had bought the property with her retirement savings, renovated it herself, built something new on the foundation of everything old. The sign above the door read Dalton Dive School, S 2024, get everyone home. The motto had come to her one night lying awake thinking about Dutch's words from 20 years ago. It meant something different now. Not just soldiers, not just combat, everyone. Every student who came through her doors. Every person who trusted her to teach them how to survive underwater. Get them home safe. That was the mission now. Her phone buzzed. Text from Knox. Landed in Miami. Driving down tomorrow. Ready for that drink you owe me. She smiled, typed back, you owe me. Remember, his reply came fast. Pretty sure you owe me for that time I almost drowned in Arizona. She laughed out loud. That was Finch who almost drowned. You just embarrassed yourself on the dive course. Silence for a moment. Then fair point. Drinks on me. See you tomorrow, Ghost. She put the phone away, looked out at the water, at the life she had built, at Harper's photo on the desk behind her, at the red squadron patch mounted on the wall. A car pulled up to the dock. Harper got out. Naval Academy sweatshirt, tan from summer training. Stronger than she had been 3 months ago. Mom! They hugged on the dock, the water lapping beneath them, the sun setting over the keys. How was training? Hard, exhausting. Everything they said it would be. Harper grinned. I loved every minute. That's my girl. They walked toward the house. Reese's house now. Small, simple, perfect. Mom, I need to tell you something. Reese stopped, turned. What is it? I met someone at the academy. His name is Michael. He's a firstie, Marine option. Reese's eyebrows rose. A Marine? I know. Dad would have had a heart attack. Your father would have interrogated him for 6 hours and then threatened him with bodily harm. Harper laughed. That's exactly what I told Michael. He said he was willing to face that even posthumously. Brave kid. He is. You'll like him, Mom. He reminds me of Dad. The good parts. Reese felt something shift in her chest. Pride, fear, the complicated cocktail of a mother watching her child grow up. Bring him down here sometime. I'll teach him to dive. He already knows how to dive. Then I'll teach him to dive better. Harper hugged her again. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. More than you'll ever know. That evening, Reese sat on her porch. The sun had set. The stars were coming out. Somewhere out there, Knox was driving south. Finch was starting his new assignment. Dutch was probably sitting in his quarters thinking about the next generation he'd trained. And Harper was inside making dinner, filling the house with laughter and life. Reese pulled out something from her pocket. An envelope, old, yellowed, worn at the edges. Harper had found it in James's things last month. He'd written it before his last deployment, asked his XO to give it to Harper if he didn't come back. Harper had kept it, waited, and then when Reese retired, she'd given it to her mother. Reese opened the envelope, unfolded the letter, James's handwriting, familiar as her own heartbeat. My darling Reese, if you're reading this, I didn't make it home. I'm sorry, I promised I would, and I broke that promise. But I need you to know something. You are the strongest person I've ever known. Stronger than me. Stronger than anyone. And I know that right now you're thinking about following me. About giving up. About letting the darkness win. Don't. Don't you dare. You have a daughter who needs you. A country that needs you. A world that's better because you're in it. I fell in love with you because you never quit. Never. Not in training. Not in combat. Not when everyone said you couldn't do what you did. Don't quit now. Live, Reese. Not just survive. Live. Find joy. Find peace. Find someone to share it with if you can. And when Harper graduates from the academy, because I know she will tell her that her father loved her more than life itself. Tell her I'm proud of whoever she becomes. Tell her to be better than both of us. I love you. I always will. Across this life and whatever comes next. Yours forever, James. Reese couldn't breathe. The letter shook in her hands. 20 years of grief. 20 years of survival. 20 years of carrying on because that's what warriors did. And here was James reaching across death itself, telling her it was okay. Telling her to live. She folded the letter, pressed it to her heart. I'm living, baby, she whispered. For the first time in 20 years, I'm really living. The door opened. Harper came out, sat beside her. You okay, Mom? Yeah, baby, I'm okay. They sat together in silence. Mother and daughter, two warriors, two survivors. Two women who had learned that the hardest battles weren't always fought with guns. The sun was setting over the Keys, orange and pink bleeding across the water. Beautiful, peaceful. Everything Reese had fought 23 years to protect. Reese Dalton closed her eyes, took a breath. 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. Heart rate 56 beats per minute. Calm, controlled, ready. The war was over. Not ended, just transformed. From violence to teaching, from taking life to preserving it. 203 notches in her notebook. 203 promises kept. 203 reasons to believe that what she had done mattered. And now, finally, after 23 years of fighting, she could rest. Not because the work was done, but because someone else would carry it forward. Knox, Finch, Harper, all the people she had touched, all the seeds she had planted. The mission continued. It always would. But for Reese Dalton, the ghost of Red Squadron, the mission had changed. Get everyone home, starting with herself. She opened her eyes, looked at the water, at the life she had built from the ashes of everything she had lost. And for the first time in 20 years, Master Chief Reese Dalton smiled. Really smiled, because she was finally home.